Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we set up this smelter module and it's almost ready to test launch. But we do not have a sky crane on this. We absolutely need a sky crane. So let's pull open something with a sky crane here. It doesn't really matter what. So it would be something like, sure, the fuel production module. That's fine. So this is large, right? That's for sure. I'm going to do that, and then we're going to remove the sky crane component, and then the rest of the fuel production module just goes away. We don't want to have that. All we're interested in here is the sky crane. So we're going to attach the sky crane right to the docking port right there, and all of that should be good. So at this point, we need to do some testing. Testing number one. How rigid are we? We're probably not very rigid. Question number two. How aerodynamic are we? We're probably not very aerodynamic either. Let's find out. So first things first, I want to open up the center of mass overlay, and I'm just checking here. I wish I could get the camera exactly where it needs to be, but this is approximately correct. Okay. Approximately correct. Let's put it on the pad. This is an absolutely 10,000% simulated launch. This is going to need some iteration, almost certainly. It's a monstrosity, and we're going to treat it as such. Do we have power generation on it? I don't know. That's something that we might need to look at. I don't think we have power generation on it. Do we have a probe core on it? Ooh, that's an interesting question, actually. So I'm not going to use MechJeb for ascent guidance, but that indicates that we probably do have a probe core if this is open. Okay, yep, we do definitely have a probe core. It must be up here in the sky crane. Oh, that's a Probodobodyne Octo 2. I think we should probably boost that up a little bit. But first things first, let's go to surface up, and let's lift this thing off. So it's a little slow off the pad, no doubt about it. I'm wondering about fuel drain rates. So this should not be draining, but this is draining. I think the SRB is draining faster, so that's, you know, a little spicy. Let's just get ourselves up to a decent speed. I'm not seeing major oscillations occurring at this point, so we might actually be reasonably rigid here, which would be remarkable. That would be absolutely remarkable if we were rigid. But it seems like we might be. So we'll see. First real test of that is going to be when we just hard pivot over. Okay, we can see this is going to be pitching. Whatever. I don't care. That's fine. I'm going to replace the Probodobodyne Octo 2 that's in here right now with a remote probe core. And we're going to need to have some power generation and an antenna on this, for sure. That's absolutely things we'll need to add, but for the time being, this test is going pretty well, actually. We're holding attitude quite well thus far. I am very concerned about the fuel drain rate. So there's that. Let's crank this over to orbital prograde, and let's see what happens. This is an aerodynamic stress test. I would not be surprised if problems ensue. Yes, problems are ensuing. Intriguing. Okay, so aerodynamic stress test failed. That's not surprising. We know we've got some work we need to do on this thing anyway. So, mission number one. We could reduce the amount of fuel in these tanks, and that's a potential option. We could also change the separatrons a little bit and add a decoupler here, which might not be a bad idea either. So that's something to think about for sure. What I want to do first is I want to come up here and I want to take out this Probodobodyne Octo 2. I'm going to be replacing that with a remote guidance unit. There we go. That's going to be much better for us. And we should probably have a battery of some description on here as well. So I'm going to go with just a Z1K, and that should do the trick. So that'll be fine for now, and then photovoltaic panels will be needed on this. The real question is, where? Well, we know we can't get rid of the sky crane until we're docked up anyway. So putting them on the sky crane is actually, I think, the best call here. So we put them here. The probe core is on the sky crane, so we need to get this docked up, then ditch the sky crane is the way that this has to go. So that seems fine for now. And then I want to address this issue down here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the Sepratron here, and I'm going to put one there, and then I'm going to put another one here, like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over on this side, one here and one here, approximately. Maybe more like here. There we go. And then the same thing over here, one here and one here, and then the same thing right here. One there and one there. So that should get us better separation, but we need to detach these right now, and we need to put in a 2.5 meter decoupler. So TD25 decouplers go in like that, and the Sepratrons here will push these tanks out and away. They should be fine. And we're just going to put this in like this, and then this in like that. Okay, so that will allow us to separate our solid fuel boosters earlier. Now, we need to go through and get this staging set up correctly. This is going to be a bit monstrous. So we need to come here, and we need to go through all of these Sepratrons. So these go here. Most of these down here will be moved down into this stage. Yes, these get moved down. These get moved down. These do as well. These do as well. And we're going to be getting into the Sepratrons that don't get moved down pretty soon here, but we're not... Okay, these all do not get moved down up here in theory. Yes. This is now theoretically correct. So we'll save that, but this has not addressed our small aerodynamics issue. So in order to do that, we should be safe on separation, in theory. So I'm going to put our aerodynamics here. That said, we should be fine there too. Okay, never mind on that. But tail fins can go straight up in here, but this is going to be awkward to get to. I have to thread the needle here in order to still be on 4x symmetry. Okay, there we go. So something like that will give us much, much better attitude control in the lower atmosphere. So let's save, put that out on the pad, and let's see how this monstrosity flies. I feel like we're getting better at building these monstrosities. Monstrosities are the way in KSP. Honestly, if you make, like, super sexy rockets, great. I don't. I think monstrosities are just so much more entertaining. There's so many things that can go wrong. It's just great. So at this point, we're still probably not going to use MechJeb, although it's an interesting idea. What if we did use MechJeb here? Would MechJeb know how to do our staging? I don't know. I mean, we're in simulated launches. Let's find out. So off we go here. What's our thrust to weight off the pad? 1.56. Not too bad. So it's going to try to roll us to azimuth, which is going to be interesting, but with those fins, it'll have some capability to do so. But I don't know if it'll understand our staging system. It shouldn't be that complicated for it, though, in theory. But we'll see if it makes any mistakes. If it does, we'll have to manually fly it, and that's a-okay. So it definitely overshot on rolling to azimuth. No doubt about it, but it seems okay so far. It managed to get the roll under control. And this will be a much more realistic ascent profile than just cranking it. So this should give us a good idea of how this is going to go. Our target altitude is 150 kilometers, remember. So we'll see how the separation goes, but I do think that we'll be okay with the Separatrons. And I have them spaced out the way that they are fairly deliberately because we want more outward force here than down here. So that's why they're spaced out the way they are, because we want them to form a bit of a Korolev cross. So that's the idea. Once they're away and clear, we don't care about them. They can do whatever. So we're in a pretty decent attitude here. I'm going to switch over to orbital mode, and we can see that we're struggling a little bit with our inclination, but I'm not terribly shocked about that. This is a monstrosity. Like, look at this thing. There's no way this is going to be aerodynamically even. It's just not going to happen. So we're punching up through the atmosphere. Are we going to have overheat events? Probably not. But we'll see. So our SRBs are going to be out in about 30 seconds here. And I'm interested in seeing how MechJeb handles all of that. We know that these tanks will have a little bit of fuel left in them, but not much. So that all seems fine for now. What's our periapsis, or rather apoapsis at this point? 27? Okay. We are trying to gravity turn, and how aggressively is it trying to gravity turn? I want to go back into maneuver mode here. Not very is the answer. MechJeb seems to be pretty happy with where we are right now, attitude-wise. Okay. I mean, we're at about 45 kilometer apoapsis, and we're going to be passing the 45-degree marker here pretty soon. So this seems approximately correct. We've got 8 more seconds, and we are set to auto stage, right? Actually, we're not. I'm going to turn on auto staging, and we'll see what it does here. That's a lot of plasma sheathing building up here, so that's noted. Good separation there. That's what we like to see. And our thrust to weight is low right now, but that actually works out well because that allows our heating events to no longer be, well, heating events, right? So that seems fine. And we're trying to head to the horizon, or are we losing attitude? No, this is what MechJeb wants to do. Okay. This is what MechJeb wants. It wants to be doing horizontal burn here. Sounds good. We're very low thrust to weight at this stage. Note how our orbital velocity is not really increasing right now. And that's our main concern at this moment is, do we have enough time to build up horizontal speed? Well, we're going to run out of fuel in these upper stages, or rather these outer tanks here, and we're going to be dropping them soon. So we'll see how that separation system works. It should be absolutely fine, in theory. We should have no problem with that. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. So that looks good. Our thrust to weight is now only 0.68. And only now are we burning this center core fuel. So we have a lot of fuel in this first stage. No doubt about that. We have an insane amount of fuel in this first stage. The real concern is, do we have enough thrust to weight here? We are accelerating slowly. And as you can see, we are in space at this point, and we have auto-deployed our solar panels. So that's all well and good. So MechJeb seems to have handled our staging without any real issue there. But the real problem now is that time to apoapsis. We've got 1.5 minutes, and it's ticking down. Our thrust to weight is going to increase as we burn out this fuel, right? No doubt about that. But this is actually really, really close to being good already. Our only potential issue is indeed the fact that we have a very, very low thrust to weight at this stage. We could adjust the timings on that by reducing the burn rate of the SRBs. That might be a good way to handle it, actually. Reducing the thrust to weight while the SRBs are running, and increasing the amount of burn time at a higher thrust to weight, and hopefully losing less speed to drag. But let's see if this works first. We're still 1 minute and 10 seconds to apoapsis at this point. So let's see here. Tick, tick, tick. So this is running at about 1 second per second. This is definitely not going down at 1 second per second. We're up to 0.8 thrust to weight at this juncture. So that's looking good. We might actually make orbit here. This is very low thrust to weight at this point, and that's the only remaining concern right now. Now, we could take over and angle a little higher, or we could just, on the next launch, target a higher orbit altitude, and that might do the trick for us. So if we cut our SRBs down to perhaps like 80% thrust, and had them burn slightly longer, and target 250 kilometers for our orbital altitude instead, this might just work. That'll mean a lot more vertical speed and a lot more time for this sort of a low thrust to weight burn to burn. But we're very close to orbit at this point. Time to apoapsis is 56. It's going up. Time to apoapsis is going up. We're good. We made it. Okay, beautiful. So in that case, we made it to orbit. Barely. By the skin of our teeth. No doubt about that. But we made it to orbit. And you might say, well, your thrust to weight is going to go down a lot once you run out of fuel here in 250 meters per second. Yeah, we're going to be so close to orbital velocity, that's not going to matter. We made it to orbit. This is good. So that's absolutely fine. Definitely underpowered on this stage. This would be a lot more efficient if we had a little bit more thrust here. But, I mean, we've got so much DV in this, it's fine. This is wildly overbuilt, as tends to be the case. So that's all great. We just flipped over into orbital mode here. We're now officially in orbit. We didn't even need to kick into this. So that looks great. We're fine-tuning that apoapsis, and we've still got 15 meters per second, 16 meters per second. Okay, so we're coasting to circularization burn at this point. Are we turning? Because we're going to be starting this burn pretty soon. It's only 44 meters per second to get us to orbit. So that seems absolutely great. We're currently just coasting, and we're not auto-warping. We do have auto-warp turned on. I'm a little bit surprised that we're not auto-warping. Are we trying to turn here, though? That's my question. Yes, we're trying to turn this direction, and we're kind of drifting the other way. So we've got this poor reaction wheel here. It's trying its best. It is trying its best. So our electric charge is pretty okay for now. I'm going to physics warp here. We've got 11 minutes to make this turn, right? So that seems absolutely fine. As long as we make this turn, I feel comfortable, and I think we will. As long as we make this turn, I feel comfortable graduating this up to an unsimulated flight at this point. That went surprisingly well. I expected to have thrust to weight issues in this stage. But we've now got about 9 minutes for this turn. But as you can see, we're definitely making our way over. We're going to be there in time. So yeah, this looks good. I do think it would be a little bit more efficient if we were to reduce the burn time, or rather increase the burn time on the SRBs, have it slightly lower thrust to weight earlier on, and keep that higher thrust to weight going later, and maybe raise our orbital altitude a little bit. But this is fine. If we, for some reason, had to redo this, I would probably make those changes. But for the sake of time, I think this is good enough. So let's go ahead and graduate this up. This is no longer a simulated flight at this point, and we are going to start this burn in about 6 minutes. We've got plenty of time to make our way over there. We've got the sun right here. That all looks great. So at this point, I'm going to take us out of Time Warp. Keep in mind, MechJeb is still running this at this point, because MechJeb is doing the circularization burn. It's trying to turn, at this point, over to our target point. It's still making its way over, but it should start an auto warp soon. And then it's just going to bring us up into, well, you know, this orbit right here. So that's going to be pretty close to what we targeted. Definitely close enough. I'm not going to use MechJeb for anything other than Ascent. I was just interested in seeing how that would work with the slightly awkward staging that we had going on there. But it wasn't the most awkward staging. I've definitely built rockets where MechJeb just could not understand how the staging worked. But this was not one of those. So there's our auto warp going forward. Excellent. And we've got about 20 seconds until this burn. And now 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, we're definitely a little over gimbaled there, but we only had so much DV in that, right? So that seems good. Thrust to weight on this guy is only 0.19 at this moment, but that's because we have a large amount of fuel. I'm not noticing any significant oscillations, and everything looks good. MechJeb is fine-tuning our circularization burn, and there we go. It considers it done. So the autopilot is disengaged at this point, and here we are in our target orbit. We barely got here, to be sure. But in the end, we got here. Turn rates are going to be very slow. That's okay. Now that we're in orbit, it really doesn't matter that much. And turn rates are going to be significantly improved once we ditch some of this fuel, right? So that's all absolutely wonderful. At this point, what we need to do is we need to burn some fuel. So we need to add a maneuver somewhere around here and push this right on out. So that is an escape velocity. What's that orbit going to be looking like? Okay, let's set Duna as our target, and let's see if we just happen... No, I don't want an alarm here. Go away. I've forgotten how to close this window. It's this button. Okay, fantastic. So we just need to grab this maneuver node, and then we need to check to see if we happen to be in a halfway decent transfer window. We probably aren't. Yeah, no, we're not. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. We'll just pull this right on back, and we'll just park in an orbit about like this. So we'll align to that node. It's going to be challenging to turn, but now that we've ditched this whole first stage back here, you can definitely see we're doing better on the whole turning thing. We've got 11 minutes for this, and let's let that reaction wheel get to work. Now, one thing to note is we might have a bit of difficulty turning on the dark side of the planet due to power, but I don't think that's going to be the case. We know that our reaction wheel only draws like 0.11 power per second when it's running at full tilt, so there's that. So let's get aligned up over here, and that seems good. It doesn't have to be aligned perfectly, just good enough. And as we burn more and more of this fuel, we'll be in a better place. I want to check here that our fuel flow is working correctly. It appears to be, so that's good. And then we will jettison these. Oh, this should be in its own stage here. Okay. Why is it not highlighting them? It should be highlighting one of these. Yeah, there we go. It's just not highlighting it through the way it usually does, but okay. So now we can see that this staging should be correct, and we should be pulling from these tanks first. So let's see here. Yeah, from these tanks first, that is all correct. That looks good. Okay, so we are in position for this burn. Let's go ahead and auto warp around. And of course, once we complete this burn, we'll manually warp out of here. So that looks fine. Okay, so we've got about 50 seconds here. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. So this is going to be a pretty long burn. Our thrust to weight is very low. This isn't shocking. We're not thrust limited. We just have a lot of mass on this thing. So that's absolutely understood. This is going to take some time. We've got about 6.5 minutes on this burn, and it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, when we come back, this burn will be completed, and we'll be ready to warp. Hopefully, if I remember to do all of that correctly. That would be the dream. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALBest Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Rornaz, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.